Beneath the roar of engines and the crack of gunfire, a squadron few believed should exist, carved history.
Their victories weren't just in the skies. Each mission carried more than bombs. It carried proof of
The story of these pilots didn't begin in the skies over Europe, but in classrooms, offices, and political backrooms. Long before Mustangs carved red arcs across clouds, the idea of black combat pilots was dismissed as folly or threat. Training at Tuskegee demanded perfection. Every mistake risked confirming prejudice they sought to overturn. The report codified prejudice into military policy, ensuring the glamorous frontier of aviation remained reserved for white men. For nearly 2 decades, this judgment stood unchallenged in government halls, casting a long shadow over aviation opportunity. But America itself was changing. Civil rights activists and church leaders hammered hypocrisy, democracy abroad, exclusion at home. Newspapers like the Chicago Defender demanded equal service, insisting black taxpayers and patriots deserved the chance to defend democracy. Moral appeals fused with political necessity, pushing Public Law 18 to require black schools in civilian pilot training. Segregated, yes, but finally, a small crack appeared in the wall of exclusion, long guarded by prejudice. That crack widened in January 1941, when the War Department announced formation of the 99th Pursuit Squadron.
It was framed as an experiment, not recognition. Officials expected, some even hoped, that black pilots would fail.
If they faltered, prejudice would be permanently vindicated. If they triumphed, the nation's contradictions would be laid bare. Training began at Tuskegee Army Airfield, Alabama, chosen for political compromise and isolation from wider scrutiny. Recruits there carried double burdens, mastering aviation skills while proving an entire race's worth under relentless observation. Each stumble, crash, or mistake risked being seized upon as evidence of supposed inferiority, fueling hostile expectations. The washout rate was brutal. Only the most disciplined, determined cadets survived Tuskegee's punishing standards of perfection.
Unlike many white trainees, they flew longer hours before earning wings, 300 compared to 200, demanding perfection at every step.
Ground school demanded flawless mastery. Instructors drilled them mercilessly, not from cruelty, but because failure was unthinkable. These cadets prepared to battle both the Luftwaffe and America's doubts. Every assignment a test of racial proof. In January 1941, the War Department formed the 99th Pursuit Squadron. At West Point, Davis endured 4 years of deliberate silence, classmates refusing speech beyond official duties. Every sortie, every dogfight, every life saved or lost would be judged not just individually, but racially. The atmosphere was tense, focused, monastic. Each dawn brought thundering engines. Each night ended with relentless study. These men forged themselves into living arguments, preparing to answer with action the question America asked in whispers.
Their test came in April 1943, when the 99th shipped out to North Africa to join the Allied advance. They flew Curtiss P-40 Warhawks, reliable yet outdated against German Messerschmitts and Focke-Wulfs already dominating European skies.
The assignment was framed as a proving ground, yet shadows of skepticism followed every mission they were handed.
Every stumble risked vindicating doubters. Survival required precision, discipline, and the resilience of men carrying more than orders.
In April 1943, the 99th Fighter Squadron sailed to North Africa, joining the campaign after Rommel's defeat. Assigned to support the Allied advance, they carried both weapons and the crushing weight of national skepticism.
April 1943, the 99th Fighter Squadron arrived in North Africa, stepping into Warren's furnace where proof and survival intertwined.
German Messerschmitts and Focke-Wulfs descended with fury, testing these young pilots against Europe's most lethal hunters. Each dogfight became a crucible. Cadets carried more than survival. They carried the fate of an entire experiment. Bombers depended on their escorts. Success meant lives preserved. Failure meant formations collapsing in fire and loss. For these men, every mission was double-edged, proving courage in combat while disproving prejudice at home.
Unsung. By mid-1944, the Tuskegee experiment expanded. The 99th joined the 100th, 301st, and
Their mission: escort American bombers deep into Germany, facing flak clouds and enemy fighters while protecting lives at all costs. Others chased glory. The Red Tails used discipline as their weapon, guarding bombers like angels above the clouds.
In June 1944, their discipline was given a symbol. Tail sections painted crimson gave birth to the Red Tails.
Soon, bomber crews whispered requests. If you can get them, fly with the Red Tails. Mission after mission, they held formation, intercepting threats before bombers fell, earning the name Red Tail Angels. But angels bled too. In July 1944, chaos above Memmingen cost 15 bombers and 3 Tuskegee pilots.
Critics called it failure, but analysis showed otherwise.
To bomber crews, results mattered most. Under Red Tail protection, losses were fewer. Trust earned in fire and steel.
Every sortie carried weight beyond combat. Each flight was judged as proof of skill, discipline, and national service.
for Luftwaffe pilots, mockery turned to respect. They once sneered at black aviators, but soon cursed their crimson guardians.
For bomber crews, the Red Tails became talismans. In firelit skies, they knew they would never be abandoned. The experiment was finished. In its place stood a legend, forged in fire and painted with crimson resolve. Victories were marked not only in missions completed, but in proving teamwork could overcome doubt and resistance.
Restricted to patrols, escorts, and convoy guards, the 99th flew missions carrying risk but stripped of glory.
But the men of the 99th carried hunger, each take off a chance to disprove doubters and prove their worth.
Rhineland. Their first real test came June 2, 1943, above Pantelleria. German fighters attacked.
Neither side lost aircraft, but the enemy saw for the first time these black aviators would not break under fire.
By 1944, the 332nd Fighter Group assumed critical bomber escort duties, safeguarding missions deep into enemy territory. Colonel Davis emphasized discipline. Their mission was not to chase glory, but to ensure bombers returned safely.
His triumph ignited jubilation. It was more than victory, Curtis. It was vindication for every Tuskegee man in uniform.
News spread quickly. The Chicago Defender and other papers hailed Hall's kill as proof of skill and patriotism.
For families back home, Hall's victory was proof. Proof their sons could fight and die with equal courage.
Yet acceptance was not easy. Colonel Momier filed critical reports, highlighting failures while dismissing every success.
By late 1943, Momier recommended grounding the 99th entirely. In Washington, the program teetered on the edge of collapse.
Then came Anzio, January 1944. The 99th skies.
Flying outdated P-40s, they fought furiously. Within 2 days, 8 to 13 German aircraft had fallen to Tuskegee guns.
In 1944, their aircraft gained a mark of recognition. Red Tails became the symbol crews requested for protection.
North Africa and Sicily had been harsh proving grounds. By Italy, the 99th had carved a permanent place in history. By early 1945, the Luftwaffe unveiled its last card, the Me-262 jet, faster than any Allied fighter. The jets could outrun every Allied plane, streaking through bomber formations like silver ghosts, leaving chaos behind. On March 24, 1945, Colonel Davis led 43 Mustangs on a long escort mission to protect bombers over Berlin.
Nearly 24 jets rose to intercept. It was the largest Me-262 sortie yet, against the Red Tails' disciplined shield.
Tuskegee pilots demonstrated disciplined flying under pressure, maintaining formation and accuracy during one of the war's most difficult missions.
Moments later, Lieutenant Earl Lane steadied his Mustang. With the new K-14 gun sight, he lined up a precise shot. At 2,000 yards, Lane squeezed the trigger. The Me-262 erupted in flames, tumbling earthward in destruction. Lieutenant Charles Brantley followed with precision, bringing another jet into his sights before sending it spiraling downward. In a single mission, Brown, Lane, and Brantley brought down 3 jets, more than many groups in the entire war.
For their performance that day, the 332nd earned a Distinguished Unit Citation, proof of unmatched discipline and courage.
Victory carried a cost. The squadron lost pilots in combat, their names etched into records and memories of brothers in arms. WW2 Tuskegee Airmen endured captivity as prisoners of war, facing enemies who treated them as equals in uniform. In German camps, they were treated as fellow officers. A cruel irony awaited them upon return to segregated America. German interrogators showed grudging respect, questioning them as equals. Enemies abroad granted dignity America still denied. Behind the wire, they bore the weight of irony. Abroad, they were equals. At home, they remained second-class citizens.
The Luftwaffe gave them a name: Schwarze Vogelmenschen, the Black Birdmen.
What was once ridicule turned to reluctant respect. Even enemies admitted these men had mastered the skies of Europe.
For bomber crews, the Red Tails were more than escorts. They were angels in crimson tails who never abandoned them.
In the worst skies of the war, flames lighting horizons, engines failing, crews knew the experiment had ended. In its place stood a legend. Crimson tails etched across the memory of war. When the war ended, the Red Tails record spoke with undeniable clarity. More than 15,000 sorties flown.
They flew 179 bomber escort missions, losing only 27 bombers, half the average of other groups.
They claimed 112 aerial victories and destroyed nearly 1,000 locomotives, rail cars, and enemy vehicles.
For bomber crews, numbers meant survival. Under Red Tail watch, they reached home more often than statistics predicted.
Compared to the 15th Air Force average of 46 bombers lost, the Red Tails' 27 stood unmatched.
When guns fell silent in Europe, the Red Tails record was carved in numbers. Undeniable, unmatched, unforgotten. Yet while others marched in parades, the 332nd was quietly sidelined. At home, bitter irony awaited. German captors had shown them equality. American soil greeted them with segregation signs.
In 2007, they stood together as America honored them with the Congressional Gold Medal